William-Kate risky team-up decision with Jacinda Ardern. Is their reputation on the line? Greetings and a gracious welcome to the World of Royal Staffs channel. Welcome to yet another scandalous story about the ongoing drama between the royal family members. The news is just in that Jacinda Ardern, the reigning queen of the woke world, has picked her side in the bitter war of the Windsors. Against all odds, and despite a massive campaign by the Montecito Mourners, William and Kate have won this coveted endorsement over their arch-rivals Harry and Meghan. Imagine the jubilant scenes behind closed doors at Kensington Palace as they celebrate their latest victory. But what does this mean for the already tumultuous relationship between the two brothers? On the week that Jacinda Ardern quit as an MP in the New Zealand Parliament, leaving the country more divided than ever in its history, she proudly announced that she was joining the board of the Prince of Wales' beloved Earthshot Prize. William even gushed that he was honoured Ardern had accepted the role, praising her lifelong commitment to sustainable development and climate action. However, this move has caused controversy, and William has gone down in the estimation of many for aligning himself with one of the world's more divisive politicians. Some argue that William should have learned from his much-missed grandmother never to get involved with politics, as that is what the climate change industry is all about. It all makes sense why Ardern expressed such horror at being used in Harry and Meghan's Netflix show Live to Lead last year. She publicly hit back at the docuseries by saying she wasn't aware of the involvement of the Sussexes when she first agreed to be interviewed. Being snubbed by Ardern in favour of William and Kate marks a significant deepening of the toxicity now associated with Harry and Meghan, who have already faced the indignity of the Obamas and even Oprah Winfrey starting to publicly distance themselves from their obsessive campaign against their own family. While London's champagne socialists may covet Ardern because of her strident left-wing views and role as the darling of the globalist elite supported by the World Economic Forum, that is not how the public sees her. As a proud dual citizen, I have watched from afar as these once great nations have been brought to their knees by the heavy hand of authoritarianism during the COVID pandemic. The situation is dire, my friends. A small group of Kiwis allowed back into the country were locked in government hotel prisons, slammed for not meeting the standards of the United Nations Convention on the Crimes Against Torture, while their relatives died in hospitals down the road. This is not the Britain and New Zealand I remember. To make matters worse, anti-science Ardern pursued a dystopian zero-COVID policy by locking down millions because of a solitary COVID case in her hermit kingdom. This is a clear violation of personal freedom and choice. And if that wasn't enough, heartless Ardern then proudly boasted about creating a two-tiered society based on COVID vaccine status, eventually sacking teachers, police officers, doctors, pharmacists, and even vets who chose to exercise their right to bodily autonomy. This is unacceptable. But thankfully, the people have had enough. Eventually, those who Ardern had shut out of society launched an occupation of the grounds of Parliament, forcing her into a hasty retreat and eventually prompting her resignation. The power of the people cannot be denied. However, Ardern's constant refrain to be kind didn't fit one bit with the most brutally inhumane lockdown regime outside of China, a country she spent her premiership cozying up to. This is hypocrisy at its finest. And let's not forget Ardern's litany of failures on tackling crime, improving race relations, reducing homelessness, improving the economy, and eradicating child poverty. Instead, she seems more obsessed with her international celebrity status and future employment than the living standards of New Zealanders. Added to that is the endless woke confusing people of their heritage and moral compass. Business is struggling to find time to do their work and conform with overcompliance. Groceries are barely affordable, banks are not lending against standard mortgage applications, and medical staff have abandoned NZ for Australia. The New Zealand people are living an existence, not a life. This is not what we want for ourselves or our fellow citizens. And finally, as the master of political spin, Ardern emotionally announced to the world through crocodile tears that she was quitting because she didn't have anything left in the tank. knowing full well she faced an election drubbing from her fed-up citizens later this year. It's time for a change, my friends. Despite the mainstream media's portrayal of Ardern as a harmless heroine, she is actually one of the most controversial politicians from down under in a generation. And I believe William has been badly advised when it comes to this appointment. Not to mention the fact that Ardern is an avowed Republican who spent her 5 years in office trying to distance New Zealand from the Crown. Besides, this sort of alliance is dangerous for the royals and completely unnecessary. They don't need highly partisan political advisors as part of their coterie. The late Queen would never have thought of signing on such a contentious Commonwealth PM just out of office as a key advisor. It's alienating because, like it or not, over 50% of New Zealanders, and many millions around the world, think Ardern was a terrible leader. And it is tone-deaf to think otherwise, simply because said politician happens to be a media darling. There's also a serious dose of hypocrisy connected to such a hiring. It's unthinkable to imagine William's advisors would have allowed him to proudly announce signing any politician from the center-right of the political spectrum to such a high-profile job so soon after leaving office. The liberal establishment media would have spontaneously combusted if the Cambridges had tapped Boris Johnson to take on a similar role, for example. But why? Boris is far more of an environmental campaigner than Ardern, who, during his time in office, made many more consequential green decisions. The British monarchy is under attack from nefarious forces being encouraged by Harry and Meghan. They will only be beaten if King Charles and Prince William studiously avoid the trap of allowing themselves to become partisan. Ardern's rap sheet is lengthy and complicated, and I accept that the Prince of Wales may not be aware of it, given the sort of courtiers who surround him, but it's important that he does his due diligence now and rescinds the offer to Ardern. Otherwise, he risks creeping ever more down the path of politics, damaging his well-deserved unblemished reputation. Trust me on this, Wills, as one of your most ardent supporters, Ardern isn't worth that. Prince William and the UK public needs to be aware of just who he is partnering up with. Just what Ardern has caused to the Crown subjects. Ardern is not popular in New Zealand. Purely because of the devastation her policies have caused. Serious financial hardship, divide between the races with unelected dual governance of natural resources, incredible equity loss in housing. I was once an admirer of Ardern but now vehemently question her motives. My Kiwi friends are delighted she's no longer in power for the same reasons you state. Now I am more than disgusted and disappointed to read that Wales have embraced this former dictator. My respect for them has dropped immensely. Why would they want to be saddled with this horrible person who treated her citizens with such disrespect and contempt? Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. If you want to continue the conversation or share your thoughts, please leave a comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more insightful content. See you in the next video.